All right, Pro Schmo community, here we go. You got the private link. You got access ahead of time. What is the $50,000 bet? I'm going to say Maycee Barber, and I know you're going to mention the augmentation surgery. I know you're going to mention it, but it's not silicone, okay? It was a body fat transfer breast augmentation she got. All right, well, you're going to mention the layoff, inactivity. You're going to mention cardio. You're going to mention how she shadow boxes when she's in the octagon. We're going to cover all of that, and this is why this video is here. Okay, so it's $25,000 Maycee Barber on the money line, and Sean O'Malley $25,000. Okay, that's the $50,000 bet. All right, we're going to get into the skill set. We're going to get into the matchmaking, and I'm going to prove to you that Maycee Barber is winning this fight. It's crazy, huh? I got to prove it to you. And of course, to do that, I had to prove it to myself much, much long ago. All right. So, as you know, what we did was deploy bots to make sure that the line was appropriate. Okay. So, Maycee Barber, as you saw, opened at plus 140. There's value there, of course, but not where I wanted it. And I'll explain why. Because as soon as we pushed it into plus 160, plus 200, and I'm the first ever, we are the first ever, us, the first ever community to do something like this, to move a line, is worthwhile because, as you know, the sports books have now employed a spread, the plus 3.5 or the plus 5.5 instead of the money line. And guess what? Maycee Barber's plus 5.5 is after this 5-rounder. Minus 150, minus 170 on some books. All right, so and that's perfect because if you did not want to hit Maycee Barber on the money line, you can hammer it at minus 170, minus 150 and call it a day. All right, folks. Hey, so we're going to move in and we're going to talk about this real brief. And then it all comes down to Rose Namajunas. All right, so by matchmaking alone, I was able to understand, I was able to decode what it was the UFC intended for Maycee Barber, who they signed at age 19. I needed to figure this out. I had it figured out, I thought, many moons ago when we dropped $10,000 on Rose Namajunas last year against Erin Blanchfield. I thought I had it all figured out. I did not. I was a bit too late with the matchmaking. I was a bit delayed. And you'll see now. So it all comes back to Rose. Would you believe me if I told you that Rose was actually the one that was supposed to fight Valentina Shevchenko right now at age 36, 37, whereas Manon Fiorot was the one who fought and lost? In this case, right in this, alternate universe, okay, Rose was supposed to win the belt at age 32. Okay, I'm going to get into this though, okay? It all begins September 2023 when Rose Namajunas returns after that fight with Carla Esparza. Remember that fiasco? She took time off and she comes back to fight. She goes to enemy territory where nearly all the French fighters won. Manon Fiorot was not supposed to win that fight. Follow me. She was not supposed to. Remember, Rose fractured her finger during the fight. Some even suggest she won the fight with a fractured hand. But you can't matchmake that any further. So if you were corporate UFC or if you were a matchmaker, if you were Dana and the boys, I'm pretty sure you would have made the same determination. Yes, despite Rose looking great in there against Manon Fiorot, she's going to have to, be out of fighting for a while to recover that hand. And that's exactly what happened, okay? So here's the alternate universe, okay, that we never saw come to pass and what has a lot to do with Maycee Barber winning this fight this weekend. A lot, okay? So if Rose would have won, the fight against Manon Fiorot, Rose would have went on to fight Erin Blanchfield March 30, 2024 in the Prudential Center, all right, New Jersey. I was there. And, we didn't get that. Instead, we got Manon Fiorot and Erin. Remember that? Now, if Rose would have defeated Manon Fiorot, Manon would have fought Maycee Barber instead of Erin Blanchfield in July of 2024, that same year. Okay. So that's what it would have been like. That's what would have happened. Okay. Instead, Rose lost to Furo, as you know, and, was later booked to fight Maycee Barber, while Furo was booked to fight Erin. And then at this point, with Rose's broken finger, where Furo got the decision and messed up all the plans UFC had to face her off with Shevchenko. Okay, and this year, 2025, like Manon Furo did, um, everything just sort of resets. And it is what we have now. All right, this is where we have been led up to. Now, clearly, Rose was winning the fight against Furo. If I have to persuade you any further, 90% of all the cash on her line, on Manon Furo's line, okay, was one of the highest splits in France history, next to Cyril Gane and Benoit Saint Denis and the rest of these great fighters. All right, so if you're telling me that she wasn't the one to bust, there's no other logical matchmaking you could screen through for that fight card where Manon Furo, between Cyril Gane and Benoit Saint Denis and the likes, would not have won, right? Charrier, I think Morgan Charrier was also on that fight card and he won, right? I'm telling you, all the French fighters won. It was always Manon Furo. She was the one to bust the parlays. The matchmaking, it was supposed to go to Rose. Rose was flying from the USA, crossing 5 time zones to get to France, so on and so forth, right? So Rose would have went on to defeat Erin, just like Manon did in New Jersey, and then would have faced Valentina Shevchenko for the belt. Now, I hope that's clear. I hope that's persuasive in what the intent was at the time, right? So now you have, no, and in addition to that, right? Let's say Rose would have went on to, defeat Erin, right? Just like Manon did in New Jersey, because she would have. All right, I don't want to lose you here, right? So clearly, Rose was just defeating her a few ago. Not only that, but Erin was incredibly green. She had just finished fighting Tyler Santos. You know what I'm saying? Jessica Andrade. Jessica Andrade was, she's a strawweight, folks. And then Tyler Santos, she's just a Thai boxer. She's got a clinch game. That's about it. She's got absolutely no ground game. So, how was Erin polishing up, right? So obviously things changed when most recently Rose fought Erin. Of course, it would be a much closer scrap because Erin would exploit Rose on the ground. I mean, Rose was just making the flyweight, weight class, and to be match made against Erin, there are vulnerabilities there. Most folks would argue that rounds 3, 4, and 5 would go to Erin Blanchfield only because of how Rose's pace had slowed down drastically. I would have potentially given Rose 1, 2, and 4. That's how I saw it. But again, the matchmakers, this is not what they wanted because of one thing and one thing alone. Maycee fucking Barber. Maycee Barber. All right? This Maycee Barber, this girl is incredible. She's phenomenal. And, despite me explaining to you how I know the UFC wanted to get Rose to double champ status against Valentina Shevchenko, to see these strikers go off, because that's what the rankings was like. They were trying to get the strikers through before they got the grapplers and the wrestlers in, right? And, Rose also had Ribas and Cortez who were available to her once she would, defeat Manon Furo in case people were not convinced. They're like, no, you know what? Rose just moved up a weight class and we got to see her, one more time because the way she lost her belt is not persuasive enough. And to be frank, Erin Blanchfield and Manon and Barber deserve it, so on and so forth. I hope you follow me. If you're getting lost, you could just send me a DM and I'll help you understand this better. All right. So why is this so important? Because Maycee Barber, all this comes about from Rose and highlights how Barber was always who they wanted to help. Barber was always the one who they wanted to push. You know, whenever she would say, I want to be the champion, the youngest champion, they really took it serious. All right. Now, this idea about Erin Blanchfield being Erin Nurmagomedov, whoever says that is out of their mind. She's just a grappler. She had very little wrestling experience through high school, and she was just rolling more jujitsu than anything with the guys. That's it. You know, she'll tell you this herself. She's said this during interviews. She's press articles. I mean, you can read this stuff on your own. I mean, this is who she is. She's a grappler. All right. And she wants to set up the body lock, or she wants to set up the blitz to take you down. And it's very predictable. You know, the shot selection is incredibly predictable. And I think that, and we'll get there. All right. So, um, Erin has fought J.J. Aldrich, Molly McCann, Jessica Andrade, Tyler Santos, Manon Fiorot, Rose. If you pay attention, these are very particular fighters who do not have relentlessness provided all categories. We're talking cardio, striking, wrestling, offense, defense. They're all exploitable. If we take J.J. Aldridge, there you go. She has no wrestling or grappling defense. If you take Molly McCann, on or about the same, especially with the striking defense. Terrible. Jessica Andrade, she's undersized for this division. She's a strawweight, folks. Tyler Santos, Thai boxer, no ground game, right? Manon Fiorot, no power. She'll point, strike you to death. And you saw how Erin almost finished her in the fourth, fifth round. I mean, Manon just couldn't do it anymore, right? Whereas Maycee Barber, despite any inactivity, was fighting a prime Andrea Lee, all right, a flyweight in prime Amanda Ribas. Barber was taken down by Ribas. Of course, this is a judo, you know, martial artist, black belt at that, from a young age. So of course she got the head lock, takedown, and so on and so forth. But Barber was up on her feet, and there is something that makes Erin different from Barber, and that's that Erin is submission over position, and Maycee Barber is literally position over submission for ground and pound. Like that's incredible. Barber gets back on her feet when taken down, and her ground and pound is crazy. She also has short strikes. She has short strikes in the guard to hurt her opponents. You know, she cut open Amanda Ribas on the feet, on the ground. Any clinching that Erin's gonna do, if you see any clinching ever against Erin Blanchfield, I mean against Maycee Barber, and you're seeing those freaking elbows, man, just land, and that's what's gonna happen, because here's what was tested on Maycee Barber in the matchmaking leading up to this through all her fights: speed. Okay, everybody that Barber fought was either too big or very fast, okay, or very rangy. Whereas the fighters that Erin had fought were all disproportionate to her. Disproportionate, where she had the advantage on the ground with Tyler, where she had the size advantage with Jessica, where she had the striking advantage, the grappling, wrestling, offense against Molly McCann and J.J. Aldridge. I mean, you see, she's latent, you know, and so with that said, you have Barber, who, you know, is also strikes very well from southpaw, switches, you know, with great footwork, uses her kicks. You know, if you see that fight with Amanda Ribas, and I can send you that link. I know ESPN has taken down their catalogs, and you're unable to watch film. But I'll send you a link where you can see all of Maycee Barber's fights and all of Erin Blanchfield's fights. Maycee Barber's got these kicks that keeps her opponents guessing, so that they could respect the range, and you know how high she goes. I mean, Amanda Ribas got hit in the neck, in the face, and she's tall as hell. Prime Ribas in the flyweight division, not strawweight, where she's cutting down and she don't belong. If you look at Amanda Ribas's record, it's atrocious at strawweight, incredible at flyweight, okay? There's no shame to the loss that she has. She lost to a champion. She lost to Maycee Barber, a champion. All right, her step in elbow is money. All right, that I'm telling you, what Barber does is relentless, man. At the speed, at the power she does it. It does take some time for her to go through the rounds, but 5 rounds is enough. Now I get it. I know what you're gonna say. You're gonna say, hey, but what about the blood infection that took her out? That's why she had to take this time off. Not only that, she had a foot injury, right? She fractured her foot. She had to go recover through that. Well, she's been in recovery mode for about a year, and now she's trained this camp for about 6. And if you're thinking the UFC had not informed her that Erin would get through, Rose, I mean, you're gravely mistaken. I mean, even Maycee would say that confidently, because Rose was a little too undersized for Erin. And at that point, I mean, the judges were bought. I mean, clearly they needed Erin to get through at that point because Rose lost her fight with Manon Fiorot. All right, so what does Erin do? Erin does many things. Erin does many things that are good, okay, in the grappling. But, one of the things that you're going to notice is that she blitzes for takedowns with predictable striking. And her go-to is the body lock. That is a problem, okay, especially in this fight with Maycee, for all intent and purposes and things aforementioned already. What else can I share with you guys about this? The line, we drove it as much as we could for you guys, and we're the first to ever do it, which is pretty cool. Send me a DM. I'll follow up with you on links to these fights between Erin and Maycee. Other than that, I don't know what else to tell you. I mean, yeah, there's a huge difference between how young these two were and how they are competing now. I know that Erin intended to be the youngest, but it's going to be Barber to that degree, right? The flyweight division. And yeah, I hope that all this makes sense, right? As you synthesize it, we talked on the betting splits. There's no money on Maycee Barber. We talked about narratives and matchmaking to prove that Rose gives a lot of context clues for what was supposed to happen. All right, if she would have won her fight with Manon Fiorot, right, and then as Maycee Barber would fight these other girls, you would have her fight Erin, get through Erin, and then potentially take the belt from Rose, right? So on and so forth, right? Without a title defense. So many things you can actually ponder on with things we mentioned. As far as the elements on Barber inactivity, no, man, she's from Colorado. She's from Colorado. Okay, I did my best to take time. Okay, in this video, you could just send me a DM. You can call me. I know that this video is more particular and early for our community, but here you go. That's Pro Schmo Bets, and wish you all the best, man. Here we go again. +3.5 on the spread, -150, -170, $25,000 on the money line for Barber, or the spread if you want to be safe. $25,000 on the money line, Sean O'Malley. If you want to take the spread and you want to be safe, and I would understand, because $1,000 for you goes a long way on a -150, -170 line. That's beautiful money, right? Same thing with Sean O'Malley. In case you guys do not want to straight bet the money lines because the odds keep you away, I hope that you take all considerations for skill sets and how Maycee Barber, man, what a monster on the feet. Erin Blanchfield absorbs too many hits. She's going to try and work against the octagon. She's going to spam the clinch. Gamrot's going to foreshadow the game plan potentially, where Klein is just going to beat her ass, Maycee's very confident she's going to finish Blanchfield. I think she can, but Erin does have cardio. I just don't think she has it through round 4 and 5 when she's spamming so many takedowns. With Rose, she was so confident. She wanted to fight on the feet because she noticed she was a bit stronger on the feet. And she was reaching Rose. Rose could not absorb less strikes. And Erin's confidence grew through the rounds. That's not happening here, folks. Again, I'll send you the link to watch tape. And here we go, man. I'll see if I throw up an Instagram video so you guys can see what placing a bet like that is like. And yeah, man, I was very spontaneous with making this video. I don't ever lack lighting. I don't ever lack green screen capabilities, so on and so forth. But I had to do this one for the team. You heard? You heard it here first. ProSchmoBets.com.